Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are worldwide on Charlton and Big C Sports Show, and we do real talk all over the world. And I want to say thank you to all of our listeners out in Latin America. So bienvenidos to you, and also to our great listeners from London, England, as well as Berlin, Germany, the great country of Canada. We also have people tweeting in from Russia as well as Australia, Big C. So I want to thank them, and of course the great United States of America. Now, Big C, I was telling you about these songs coming up for the $1 Million Show, and you know today's July 8th, 2016. I've been working on a theme song. I realized that Michael Jackson and the Beatles, they sold so much music worldwide, Big C, but I have a track coming on by Mr. Annan, and he's part of Sin Entertainment, and here's something that he worked up for Mr. Charlton and Big C, and just take a listen to it for a moment, Big C, and let me know your thoughts on it.
All right, hopefully we got plenty of banjos.
I'm sure he has some banjos working for us too, Big C. So he does a lot of good work in Northern California, and he put together something for us too.
What up, Charlton? Big C. Oh no, you in trouble now. Hard hitting sportscast, don't you fumble.
I'm liking that, Big C.
Charlton, Big C.
Well, that's what we got, Charlton. We're hard hitting and that's front.
Yeah. I think the Beatles better look out. Who's that guy they call him? They call him Usher. I see him on iHeartRadio. You know, we're also coming to iHeartRadio this July. But Mr. Annan hooked it up for Charlton and Big C Sports, and I sent it out to a lot of people, and people love the vibe. It actually makes me feel younger than what I am, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
You mean I don't have to walk around with all this gray hair anymore? You know, it's going to turn my hair back black?
Well, he's coming to us out of Sin Entertainment, and they do a great job in Northern California. But he did something really nice with Charlton and Big C Sports, and I really like the vibe. I like the way it's flowing. So I think our next goal right now, Big C, is part of being the $1 Million Sports Show, is we got to figure out how we can outsell, you know, Michael Jackson's performances. And I know you got to get those vocal cords ready, Big C. Stop drinking so much moonshine. Your thoughts on that, Big C?
Well, I got to get the knees ready, Charlton, to be able to walk. You know, that's the biggest problem. You know, I'm not worried about the vocal cords. It's can I stand beyond the song? That's going to be my problem.
Well, you know, it's funny. I heard they had Vince Carter. He was actually on the Mike and Mike show, ESPN, and he's, you know, getting up there in age. He's not even 40, but they were saying, you know, how's it hurt compared to when you were in your 20s? And he said, well, as a 40-year-old, it takes a little bit longer to heat up the moonshine. And also, you hurt more. You feel more hurt, Big C. So, you know, you haven't been 40 in about a couple years. I won't say your age, but you know, I also have my AARP card. But, you know, as you get a little bit older, I think you should advise Vince Carter that moonshine takes away all the pain, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, I got a couple of 40s downstairs in the fridge. So, I mean, I keep the 40s around all the time. So, well, you know, they're not going away. I like that era. But, you know, you got to have some medicinal help periodically as you get older as an athlete. The body just doesn't function the way it did when you were 20. Yeah. And so anything you can get to aid. You know, unfortunately, so many players now have developed a chemical, you know, dependency on pharmaceutical drugs and stuff, Charlton. Which, you know, it is a tragedy because it causes so many problems in life. Yeah. You know, we talked about medicinal marijuana, Charlton. Yeah. How it should be administered to current and former players, because when you look at the pounding that players take, Charlton, up and down the court, on the gridiron, this in the baseball arena. Yeah. You know, that body is going through trauma every day. Yeah. And medicinal marijuana, you know, pharmaceutical, is from Mother Earth, Charlton. It's not a chemical drug that's made in a laboratory. Yeah. So, you know, we got so many states and cities right now with it being legalized. But people who really need it, Charlton, have to fight the most to get it. There's so many people out there getting it and abusing it and really want it only for recreational use.
Well, see, Big C, and I understand and I agree, because a lot of athletes use it anyway, and even people in mainstream society use it. There's some doctors doing scientific studies saying that it helps with epilepsy and dealing with things of that nature. So, I mean, obviously, there's some states where it's legal, like Denver, but obviously a lot of people are going to push back too. But I would be remiss without saying, before we get into our sponsors, that my condolences go out to the people of the great state of Texas, the law enforcement there, the police officers. And I know there's always this pushback on you know, all lives matter, no matter what ethnicity you are. But law enforcement, there's good and bad in everything in life. most officers are probably very good citizens and very good at their job. I just hate how something's going wrong in our society where this pro-gun thing, and I know Donald Trump's saying everyone should have a gun, but you got to find a way, and I want your thoughts on it. What can we do to crack down on this and stop this violence? And again, my thoughts and prayers are with the officers' families and for all the ones who lost their lives. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, I wondered today if John LaPierre is walking around with his chest puffed out, talking about the Second Amendment right to bear arms in America, that everybody has a right to defend themselves. Law enforcement, Charlton, is the most dangerous job in America. These men and women get up every day to serve and protect the citizens of America. Everybody is crying and badgering law enforcement until they need them, Charlton.
Ain't that the truth?
We need law enforcement every day.
Every day.
We need to find a way to bridge the communication gap between the private citizens and law enforcement. There needs to be a national quorum. I mean, we have a presidential race going on right now, and that should be a huge part of the quorum for the presidential race. How do we bridge this anger and divide gap between law enforcement and certain ethnic pockets? I mean, it's the biggest tragedy to have officers on duty, Charlton, and gunned down.
They were set up
to serve and protect. I mean,
they were set. They were ambushed. They were set up, Big C. It wasn't just gunned down. They were ambushed. This was orchestrated.
But Charlton, they had a mother, they had a father, most likely had a wife, had children, had siblings. This is a devastating loss that will never be recovered from. And how do you protect the people who are out there to protect you? So when you have these people, as you say, setting up an ambush, and the NRA providing an opportunity for them to go out and get the weaponry to ambush police officers. Now, it's okay in Chicago when you're killing black people, Charlton. It's all right. Now you got people gunning down police officers. What is going to be the NRA stance on that, Charlton?
And that's what I want to get into also. And I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Escalade, the standard of the world. And we can only get it at brand new. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, I've had law enforcement in my family. And now I grew up where I had some guys who lived right and some guys that lived wrong. And oftentimes when you lived wrong, they were always trying to run from the police. But the guys who lived right, when something went down, they would call 911 to see if they could get some help. So to see guys that have been trained to protect and serve, I'm sure that about 99 or plus 90+% of these guys are really good. Not everybody's a Mark Furman. And I know we've had some of the race issues and all that stuff that's happened over the last 100 years in our country. But these guys go to work and they want to get home and see their families too. So I hope there's a way to end all of this violence. It's really painful when you see. Unfortunately, because television glorifies it, they show it so much because they want to report the news. When you're seeing officers get gunned down on television, there's always some nut that might want to duplicate that crime, and I hate that. You know, even in the world of sports, if a spectator runs out into the field, they don't show it anymore because they don't want to encourage the next knucklehead to go out and do that. So I hope that TV would not try to show us all the blood and guts. It's not necessary to see it all. And like you mentioned so many times, Big C, I hope that we have a way to reach out to people. If they're doing wrong, then you do the crime, you got to do the time. But for the people who are innocently assaulted, my heart goes out for them too. I just don't know the solution, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, like I said, it hurts. I've known so many gentlemen and ladies in law enforcement over the decades, Charlton, and they've been fond friends. You know, they give you good advice. You know, they're not out there trying to disrupt your life in any kind of way. They're there for you. But you have to be willing to deal with them on their level, Charlton. I mean, we got too many criminals in America. And that's something that, you know, when you talk about the problems in America, how do you eliminate the criminals? You have to have a better education system, Charlton. You cannot be relying on government assistance and not go to school and get an education. So we have to find a way to force education on Americans.
But listen to this.
If you're educated, Charlton, these things don't occur.
But think about it this way, Big C. The people in Congress, these Republicans that fought the president, trying to make it difficult to get assault rifles, they are educated. They're educated, and they make the law. And they want to shut down and veto the president for trying to make it difficult for people to get guns to shoot police officers, Big C.
I mentioned Ron LaPierre earlier, okay? Since he's been president of the NRA, they've donated $347 million to Congress, okay?
How much?
$347 million to Congress to block every gun law that has come through. If you recall last month when the Democratic Party of Congress had a sit-in trying to get a bill pushed to the floor.
Yeah.
And they sit in Congress for a day and a half filibustering.
Yeah.
And it did not even make it, Charlton. That's how much an outcry that money can stop proper politics in America. I mean, when we look at Washington, D.C., when we want to talk about what's broken, Washington, D.C. is broken. You know, we get all this backlash against the president.
Yeah.
The president's a marvelous individual. But he has this group of Congress called Republicans who fights everything that he does.
Yeah.
And you know, and he has looked out for America. He's the CEO of this company, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he's only doing things for American rights. But they fight him because you got all these lobbyists paying these congressmen money to keep these bills from being passed. And when these bills are not being passed, so what's going to be next? You know, we sit here and see some police officers, some quality people get gunned down doing their job.
Yeah.
What happens if this goes on in a sporting arena, Charlton? What if we're sitting up watching a basketball game and all of a sudden some nut jumps up and starts firing at players on the floor? Or even at a football game, they start doing it at the players on the sideline. Charlton, a tennis match, Wimbledon is going on right now.
Yeah.
So what happens if somebody just wants to start shooting at Wimbledon?
Well, we know,
You know, where do we stop it at?
Well, remember in Boston where they had the race and there was an explosive set off by some knucklehead kid?
The Boston Marathon.
Yeah, the Boston Marathon just a few years ago. And we also had the shooting at Kent State, you know, a couple decades ago, but we also had
1971, Charlton, on campus when 9 students were killed by National Guardsmen.
Yeah, and we also had the incident in Europe just last year, this soccer game where there was explosive set off outside of soccer stadiums and they stopped it. So, I mean, in America is a great place. So when we hear about police brutality, the bad cops, they should be punished. Just like anyone that commits a crime should be punished also. But you have a right to face your accuser in a court of law. And how does this relate to sports? It all relates to sports because sports is about competition. But if we don't have a safe society, it affects everyone going to the sports arenas too, Big C. You talked about that. When I saw Golden State play Cleveland in the finals, they ran a metal detector on the basketball players going into the arena because they understand they have to do everything they can to make it safe. When we had the Super Bowl out here, I remember walking around in downtown San Francisco, and I saw these laser-guided assault rifles that were there by law enforcement and this strong military presence. And I asked the guy, well, how far can that shoot? And he said, far enough. And he had all this protection. They had so much military around there, and they needed it to keep people safe, Big C. I would hate to see that type of martial law happening in our society. So while we're all fixated on sports, we got to understand that we have freedom because we do have law enforcement, because we do have a military. So I hope that everyone can even just have a moment of silence and show more respect to our men and women in uniform, Big C. Just your thoughts on that.
You know, and you spoke about martial law, Charlton. The United States is not far from martial law. When we look at how disruptive our society is, and you spoke about the metal detectors going into a sport arena.
Yeah, NBA Finals.
That's supposed to be a safe, friendly haven going into a sporting arena. But now you have to be monitored walking inside to see if you're brandishing any kind of weapons, Charlton.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's nothing safe. But when you look at the security, Charlton, at most sporting arenas, matter of fact, all of them, it's by local law enforcement, Charlton. They're hired to run security at these venues. And so not only are they working on the streets, Charlton, but they work at these venues to protect private citizens, Charlton. This is what they sign up for all the time. So you can't take that sanctuary away from them, Charlton. That they have that bit of security when they go to work is that they're the guys who are out there to enforce the law, not the guys that's dodging from the criminals, Charlton. And it's such a sad state to see these officers lost, Charlton. And, you know, it's hard to put into words, but it's just a tragedy. And, you know, like I said, the NRA, this is when they need to come out with a press conference.
What are they going to say now? What are they going to say now, C?
I mean, we had Newtown, Charlton, where all the little kids, 6, 7, 8 years old, were shot in the school, Charlton. We had the incident in Aurora, Colorado, where that Met case went into the movie theater and shot some 96 people, Charlton. You know, we've had all of these incidents that the NRA is saying, wait, hey, it's okay. It's okay. Now that police officers are being shot, Charlton, what's going to be the NRA stance now? How can they rightfully get up and say, hey, we have the right to bear arms, gun down police officers?
And see,
this is stupid.
Yeah, it's very stupid behavior, but there are a lot of smart people that want there to be guns in our society, and I don't understand how they can justify this. I hope they make a speech to the families of these slain officers and let them know how they're not doing enough or how they think they're doing enough to keep everyone safe. And I also want to say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California BMW dealer, home of the ultimate driving machine. And go down to test drive the 1 Series all the way up to the super powerful M7, also known as the 760 Li. And when you're test driving it, let them know that Charlton and Big C sent you. So again, we want to let all of our heartfelt emotions go out to the family and all the people who've been injured, especially law enforcement, not just in Dallas, but all around the world. And I hate what television does sometimes, because this talk about Black Lives Matter, and people are tired of African American men being gunned down. And me, of course, I'm part of that, being tired of that, Big C. But this is in no way a black-white issue. This is about violence and safety, because there were a lot of black men and women who were crying too when these officers got slain. There are a lot of black Americans who are also law enforcement officers. They also want to get home to their kids, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Charlton, this is an educational issue. We talk about that all the time on our show. Education, the lack of education that college athletes are getting, that high school athletes are getting, Charlton.
Yeah. How
these colleges are spinning these kids off after 1 and 2 years with really no future if they do not make a professional team.
Yeah.
All of this comes down, Charlton, to lack of education. Now, when you sit around, you look at you and I, you look at those law enforcement officers, they have education, Charlton.
Yeah.
You look at the President of the United States.
Yeah.
They have an education. You look at Congress. I question the Republican part of Congress. Do they have an education?
Yeah.
But, you have to be concerned. You're out there to serve the public of the United States, Charlton, when you're elected to public office, not to serve an individual or a corporation. And that's what the Republican part of the House and Congress are doing. They're servicing certain individuals, but now, Charlton, it is creeped over and is costing the lives of law enforcement.
Yeah.
We've had to cry about Black Lives Matter for a long time.
Yeah.
But now, when will the protest come that law enforcement lives? Charlton, what if law enforcement wants to do? And you've spoken about that. There's always going to be people who are not perfect in any profession, okay?
Yeah.
But what if law enforcement wants to start setting up ambushes, Charlton?
I know.
What's going to be the plight of America at that time? Just like in the Bible, do unto others as you have them do unto you.
Yeah.
What if they start setting up these scenarios? I mean, law enforcement are great people, Charlton.
Yeah.
Forget about the couple of bad ones.
Yeah, there's always a couple of knuckleheads. Yeah, you're right.
Even in sports, you have bad people on every team.
Yeah.
But law enforcement, for the most part, these are great people, Charlton. They go out every day. It's not, okay, I'm just going to go out for the weekend and have some fun like I'm going fishing or whatever.
Yeah.
Every day they strap on that Kevlar vest, they put on the gun belt, and they make sure that they put themselves in the most secure situation they can. But now we have these nuts in America that think it's hunting season on the greatest profession in America.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Big C, because, and again, me growing up in an environment where I know people who are of all ethnic, who's black, white, Hispanic, Native American, it doesn't matter. Everybody wants to get home to their families. Whether you have a family, whether you're married or single, no matter what it happens to be, I just know that this world of sports, and this is what Jim Brown was talking about before, because you mentioned when we had the Ali ceremony, there were about 67 African Americans that were shot in Chicago, I guess right around that same week, Big C. It did not make the news, and I heard this Caucasian woman being interviewed by Wolf Blitzer from CNN, and she's blonde hair, blue eye, which is what America's put up as its paragon of virtue. I think all people are beautiful. Every ethnic group has their own image of beauty, but the mainstream has always put that image out there. This young Caucasian woman in about her 20s, she gave this story about how this black guy was murdered, and they call it police brutality. And I think he helped with kids in some type of youth program, and I want to say it's in Minnesota. But she said that he was pulled over because he had a tail light out, and something happened and he got shot by the officer. She also gave that same story. She was driving around and her tail light was out. White cop pulls over, asks her what happened. Does she know her tail light's out? And she said, I'm going to get it fixed. And he let her go. Didn't give her a write-up for a ticket. Didn't give her a warning. Just said, make sure you get it fixed. Now, that's not the story that this African-American kid has, that when he got shot, I think his girlfriend had the video camera or the camera on her phone running. So we know that not all people are treated the same. I remember driving a BMW, a V12 BMW, right across the city one week. This about a year and a half ago, and I got pulled over. And the cop asked me, "Are you out on parole or probation?" He didn't say, "Let me see your driver's license registration." He said, "Are you out on parole and probation?" I'm in a suit. I'm driving a nice luxury car, but I was even treated like I was doing something wrong. They kept me for about 15 minutes. I called my attorney on the phone, and they made some type of statement, "Well, we want to make sure you slow down," or some of that nature. And they let me go, but I had my lawyer on the phone, so I know that people get treated differently. I've been part of that. But I still showed respect to the law officer. I didn't get out and start cussing and calling him names. I didn't give him any reason to shoot me, because when he walked up to the car, I saw his gun. Now, I love sports. I love my family. I love living. But I'm telling you, there are some young men who behave foolishly also. And so I'm not making excuses for it. There's always a good and bad in everybody, but we have to learn how not to overreact, Big C. I just think that message that you talk about, the education part, it doesn't just mean in the books. It means how to think. So if you could touch base on that again, the way Jim Brown was talking about it, Big C, education doesn't just mean go to college, but what does it mean to you, Big C, again?
Well, Charlton, it means to me the rites of passage in life. Is that you know how to go from childhood to manhood. And being a man is not about having your pants sagging, learning how many profanity words you can use.
Yeah.
It's learning how to be socially functioning in society, Charlton. How to handle yourself in certain positions as you spoke about with the law officer. That comes from education, Charlton. Understanding your position. That's the most powerful, dangerous person in America when he wants to be. Because as we've seen too many times on television, Charlton, they have the right to take your life without any recourse.
Yeah.
And so why put them in that predicament, and why put yourself in that predicament? Learn police etiquette, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's what should be taught in school. We got every young black person in America can rap under the age of 18.
Yeah.
Every one of them. But do any of them, Charlton, know police etiquette? That's what we need to be teaching in school. There should be a class. I talked about that early on when our program started. When I talked about social economics, Charlton. And that's part of social economics. Learning how to handle yourself in society in any situation. And we've seen so many athletes, Charlton, that don't understand social economics. We've seen athletes, Charlton, lose their lives in the past year in incidents of violence. And so it happens across all jobs, all finances, and all of that, Charlton. But the key is, don't put yourself in that predicament. It's like when you were a kid, and I think everybody else, when your mother told you, don't put your hand in the fire. Yeah. But when she walked away, you did it anyway. Yeah. Everybody had a gas stove back in those days when I was a kid. Yeah. But when she wasn't looking, you did it because you didn't want to believe her. So you wanted to take the challenge. Next thing you got blisters on your hand.
Well, Big C.
And she's been loving you up, telling you, baby, I told you not to do that. But at that point, you started to believe in what she told you. Yeah. But that was an education, Charlton. We don't realize it, but that was a simple education and rite of passage that your mother did to you when you were a child.
Well, see, Big C, I think that's something that's very important, because a lot of young black kids, and I follow sports for so long, about 30 years. It's just, I love it. It's like, to me, it's like eating candy. It's something that tastes good and feels good. I love it emotionally and socially. I love it. But I want to bring this point up because it's so important. And I want to just say that as an African-American father, I'm so conscious of the fact that I got to tell my kids, if you ever get pulled over, show respect. It's yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Because it's about saving your life. Because I grew up around some knucklehead guys that got caught up in the gangs. And unfortunately, they also preyed on other black people. They went out in the neighborhoods beating up white kids. They were trying to prey on other black kids. So I'm not trying to make this like all black guys are innocent. There's also, and I know people might hate when I say this, but there's an ignorant side to every society. And you have guys that walk around with their underwear hanging out and their pants down on their knees, and someone told them that was cool. But imagine if our grandparents walked around that. Most of us didn't have grandparents that were so classless that they behaved that way. When you understand that communication, 55% is nonverbal. It's how you appear to people. And that study came out of Stanford. What's wrong with pulling your pants up and carrying yourself a certain way? And I say that because I got pulled over wearing a suit and tie driving a nice luxury car. So if it happens to anybody, it happens to a lot of people. But my behavior wasn't so aberrant that they felt the need to shoot me. And I tell all my kids, behave, even though they may be wrong. You live to see the next day. Don't get an attitude and don't act like you're more important than that officer. Now, I just want to say this, Big C. This segment is sponsored by your Northern California Ford dealer, home of the all-new F-150. They build it for it tough. And when you go down to test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Also, BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org. Make a donation today. It's easy, it's fast, and secure. And when it comes to promotions, contact Cynthia Evans of CYNN Entertainment. When it comes to promotions, she's the best in Northern California. And tell her that Charlton and Big C sent you. So, Big C, I want to bring this up because I've had this kind of hard conversation to have. I love basketball, and it relates to what we're talking about. But Kevin Durant just signed with the Golden State Warriors. This is about having a social consciousness. Instead of saying the right thing, they talked about his new shoes, his Nike shoe or whatever he wears, being $88, and he doesn't want it that cheap. He wants it to be higher because he's not an $88 person. He's not an $88 athlete. What an ignorant thing to say. Because you had a guy by the name of Stephon Marbury, who was also a multimillionaire that played in the NBA. Because he was socially conscious, he had a pair of shoes you could get for $15. Knowing that young black boys are going to be out buying these shoes, and white kids too. But we've heard about the violence in the inner cities and black communities where kids are being beaten up to get their $200 Jordans. So we know that Michael Jordan, he has socially no conscience whatsoever. Is very ignorant the way he's behaved because he doesn't even speak out against violence. And he's so unconscious about how kids are affected and harming other kids to get his product that's made for $1.50 an hour. He says nothing about it. Now you can buy a Jordan shoe that costs $500. So Durant, grow a social consciousness, or at least understand that you came out of the inner city where kids were preyed upon for their shoes. Is that an ignorant thing, Big C, or I'm just too old school now?
Well, Charlton, I looked at how many children in the last decade have lost their lives over a pair of Jordans that have come out that have been priced so high that the criminal could not afford them, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's what I look at. And we don't get reports of that on the news.
Yeah.
We don't. It's okay because Michael Jordan is held in such high esteem.
But for what? Because he scores basketball points?
NBC, CBS, Fox News, to go back and do a survey and find out how many children, and that's what it's been, Charlton, children have died over a pair of Jordan shoes.
That he endorses. Yeah, he endorses it.
We got to find out what's important in life and what's important in society. And Charlton, we've talked about these children not going to make it as professional athletes.
Yeah.
They don't have a chance. But, they do have a chance in society if they can get an education and be productive. But the criminals are stopping so much of that. And I've often talked about the rites of passage in life.
Right.
When I was growing up, after 2 years old, I got very confused. I didn't know if my dad was my dad or my grandfather was my dad.
Yeah.
Because I spent so much time with my grandfather.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to take me with him. He had his own business and everything. So he would be at the house every morning early to pick me up.
Yeah.
And so, grandfather was so important to me that I think that's what allowed me to have success in life.
Yeah.
My parents were there, but my grandparents were there, Charlton. I had these eras of people. I had grandparents, great-grandparents, parents. I had this whole team in life. It wasn't like it is in society now. When you look at 77% of African-American kids trying to figure out who their dad is, Charlton.
Wow.
Because only 23% are born in the single-parent household.
Yeah.
So 77% of African-American kids right now are trying to figure out their dad.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a dad to teach you the rites of passage, male and female, Charlton, your life is very limited.
Yeah, and see, that's a lot going on in our society. And all parents, whether you're dual-parent household or single-parent household, there's still this issue that young boys, especially men of color, I was always taught growing up, even if your teacher asks you to stand on your head, even if you know you can't do it, don't smart off and yell at the teacher. Just make sure you make the effort. Now, I understand that because you have to understand how to respect authority. My father was in the military, my mother part of the church. They both grew up in those environments. But the point is, we can't make excuses. I grew up with a lot of guys that made excuses. They were so defiant to authority. A lot of them spent time in the penitentiary because they were too smart to be smart enough to not get in trouble with law enforcement, Big C. And I'm not making excuses for anybody. I understand that. Most of the guys that tried to harm me growing up, they happen to have my same skin color. Most of the people that tried to help me growing up, they also have my same skin color. And I know everyone in their own family. as we're telling people to become the next big, strong, fast athlete. Mainstream society will come into your inner city, whether you live in the suburb or the country. If you're big, strong, and black, they want to get you into college to play sports. They're not trying to get you in there to play and understand computers or the stock market. And Big C, you talked about a program that people can spend time with instead of this NFL 2K17 or whatever it is. They can learn how to trade stock. It's something called, I think it's called NFL 260 or 16 actually is what it's called. But you talked about Ninja Trader and other platforms that people can learn so that you could take a year or two to learn that, and it would increase your academic and your education and your financial knowledge, and that's important, Big C. The last segment I want to say is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance, and also by Goosehead. We're the leaders in property and casualty. When it comes to Goosehead, we beat about 98% of the people in competition. And with United Labor, there's no medical questions. So if you've been turned down by your insurance provider, tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports that you're looking for a quote. And also, I'm a broker with One Life America. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. And tweet out to Charlton and Big C on Facebook and also Twitter. So Big C, I'm so passionate about this show today because we came on to talk about the sports business. And we know how life and politics and sports is all the same. It's about people. But I just want to say again, as we close out, to law enforcement all over the country, I hope that we can find a way to make society safe, but I don't want my law enforcement friends being in trouble or being in danger of their own lives, because I know that 90% of them are good. They know there's some bad apples too, and that's the case in every employment. But my heart goes out, Big C, to the ones who lost their lives and the families that are dealing with it, because the next time someone gets in trouble, they're not going to call the guy that has an assault rifle. They're going to call 911 and ask for help. Your thoughts again on how to keep law enforcement safe, Big C.
Well, Charlton, I hope that this doesn't create a backlash from law enforcement. You know, it could almost be justified if it did, but law enforcement works so hard to keep America, this country, safe. And when we have a rare next situation like what we have to jeopardize their safety, it's not a kind of good scenario to be in, Charlton. But, you know, this is going to put a lot more people in peril. It's going to force a lot of law enforcement to act quickly, Charlton. Not to be cautious, but they're going to act quickly. So what this situation could possibly do is escalate the loss of life in America. And no one wants to see that, Charlton. And, you know, like you said, it's been a total tragedy with the loss of these officers, prayers, thoughts, and wishes with their families and loved ones. But we got to find a solution in America. We got to get the NRA to the table to admit what they're doing is wrong. About allowing people to have these rifles. The Second Amendment right is the worst piece of paper that was written in America. And I live in South. I grew up hunting, Charlton. I grew up. But I realized those animals that I was hunting didn't have a chance. Not one of them had a chance. So I could go to the grocery store, Charlton, and get what I needed to get cheaper than what I could go out and hunt them. But, you know, the Second Amendment was against tyranny. And we don't have tyranny anymore in America. We have law enforcement, we have military services, and all of that. So we need to really, as America, take a look at the Second Amendment. And if those people need to go and hunt, Charlton, because there's not a grocery store within 5 miles, maybe that's acceptable. But what we have as a country and the lives that are lost over a piece of paper, Charlton, calculate the number of lives in America that are lost every year over this piece of paper, and see how justifiable it is.
Well, Big C, I understand that very much so. And so on a note, just to say thank you for law enforcement, thank you for protecting and serving, and also for people who are in society. I hope that we can find a way to teach our kids to keep the peace, you know, respect authority. And speaking of that, I know we have the All-Star game coming up. We talked about how it really, to my heart, because I know so many law enforcement friends, I appreciate the service they give. So I wanted to honor them with this show today, Big C. And also I want to say for Charlton and Big C Sports, we're coming to iHeartRadio, and I appreciate the offer coming in. There's over 250 million people in their listening platform. So I thank them for taking a listen to our show and liking it. You can't please everybody, Big C, but I tell you what you can please. I talked to you about Charlton and Big C Sports having a theme song and working with people who understand music in Northern California. I want to also thank Mr. Annan. He comes to Northern California with lots of concerts, and he also created this song for the Charlton and Big C Sports Show. And this goes across worldwide because we're carried in all countries. You can hear this song right now in Russia. You can hear it in Australia. You can hear it in London, England, Berlin, Germany, Canada, and of course the great United States of America. So as we're going to start bringing to you music and entertainers to go with our sports show, I want to thank you, Big C, for all your knowledge that you bring to the show. And I call you the Mystic because you are very knowledgeable, and I appreciate what I've learned just talking to you. So when it comes to growing, we are growing our presence in this world of sports and entertainment. So Mr. Annan, I want to thank you again for your great help in putting together a song for us. And as we close out, Big C, I just want to say this to you. Everyone's watching sports. They're watching law enforcement. They're watching everything that's important right now. In the last 30 seconds, close out what you think about the sports business. And again, one more tribute to law enforcement.
Charlton, the sports business is protected by law enforcement.
Yeah.
When you look at it as a whole, they are the security in every arena that these professional athletes go into. Not only do they serve and protect on the streets, Charlton, but they serve and protect while America is enjoying a sporting event.
Yeah.
They have taken all of this. They put their lives on the line every day for Americans to be comfortable and safe to sit back and enjoy a sporting event. Now, we're getting people that don't care about law enforcement, Charlton, that they're gunning them down, snipers. That's wrong. I don't care who you are in American society, regardless of race, regardless of your feeling about law enforcement, we all as people know this is wrong.
Yeah.
And we cannot accept nor allow this to continue in America. The home and land of the free, Charlton,
yeah.
This is not any longer.
Well, Big C, I want to tell you, I appreciate those words very much. And we're going to end this show on a positive note because I know you guys in the South, and you love your moonshine, and I heard you love pretty women down South also, too. I hear that Southern Peach thing that you guys got going on. But I also want to I understand that, Big C. I think the California girls are a lot more beautiful out here. That's just my thinking, Big C. But I also want to say tonight's California Lotto is Million is up to $540 million, and I think it's won by Charlton and Big C Sports. So as you know, Big C, don't tear the ticket in half. When we say we're going to split the money, you can't tear the ticket because when you do, I don't think they accept it at the lottery, Big C. So every Band-Aids won't work, maybe duct tape, Big C. So every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, whether you're in Russia, whether you're in Africa, whether you're in London, England, or Canada, you can follow Charlton and Big C Sports in the United States at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, coming to iHeartRadio. So I want you to know that we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.